Knowing how to stay positive when you feel defeated is no small order, especially if you have abilities that are going in directions you don't want to go. In this video, I want to share with you 3 steps that I follow to kick defeat to the curb and to keep yourself staying positive. Now, we all know that life is a series of changes. Everything decays, and if living dies. I mean, even non-living things have a life cycle. I mean, just think about new cars. Who doesn't love that new car smell? Buildings, homes, they all decay over time. Eventually, everything kind of changes and just erodes. There's nothing we can do about it. And where our bodies are concerned, there's a lot that we take for granted until something happens to really grab your attention. I tend to think that people don't really understand or get what accessibility and disability means until it comes to their home, until maybe a family member or they themselves encounter a chronic illness or a significant physical loss. Now, myself, I did not go very far in science in school, so I really didn't understand or grasp the true scope of really all our inner workings. But I did excel at becoming a patient and became sort of a connoisseur of medical facilities. Because from an early age, I was exposed to a lot of really high-end medical centers. And the thing about that was, I was able to really see children that were the same age as myself dealing with far greater difficulties than me. And the same is true as an adult, because I often have to be monitored by different specialists. So, I meet a lot of people with a lot of different health challenges. And it's kind of humbling because I'd say from an early age I really learned to understand the importance of compassion and appreciation. Now, don't misunderstand, it's not to minimize when big things come forward, because having a progressive disease means changes definitely come up for me, and sometimes I have to face really big changes, and it can be very difficult. And I certainly know that feeling of defeat. It's not foreign to me at all. And when something big changes, I think it's okay to wallow and feel disappointed for a little while. But then this is when I snap into my 3-step process. And so the first thing is you really have to get real. Like, what is the issue? What is it that you're really feeling defeated about? And to do this, you kind of have to move your emotions aside. Don't get into the whole, what does it mean and how do I feel? Just get to the issue. So let's get real. And I'll use the example of last summer. I was feeling very defeated on the amount of walking I was not able to do anymore. And so when I moved all the emotions aside and thought, well, what is the issue? I really wanted just to make sure that I can walk well enough to, go into the bathroom and maneuver around the house as best I can. And I knew in order to strengthen that, I needed a little bit more endurance. So I decided that, okay, so getting real was, I just really wanted to walk a little better in the home. Now, to get motivated to make some sort of change, I thought about, well, what is it that I could really do? So this is the second step, once you move away from, you get real and identify what it is you want to change, then you get motivated. So from there, I tend to think of what is the smallest thing that I can do to make a difference, to move toward something more positive. So it's really, really important here to not make big goals and to, look for expectations that are too high or hard to achieve, because then you're going to be setting yourself up for greater defeat, and that will defeat the whole purpose of going through these 3 steps. So in my case, what I decided was the smallest thing that I could do was I walked outside and I thought, well, I could walk 5 houses, and that was about 45 steps. And so I thought, okay, so whenever I go outside to do a walk, I have to at least go past 5 houses. And I've followed that rule as best I can for a year now. And so I set that up and thought, well, okay, now you need to be accountable, because it's very easy to blow these things off. So what I did was I decided, okay, let's film this. So my accountability became the world, whoever might be watching my video. And that really, helped me to keep motivated, really. And I could see myself watching the video that I was improving, just a little bit each time. And so then that gave me more motivation. And then the 3rd step is get rewarded. Now, obviously the reward is in my case, it was to walk a little more. But I wanted something more. So sometimes a reward is good to have something tangible. But I always also think it's important to not kind of look for that reward until you're well in the midst of the, being motivated and actually moving forward. So then what I decided was I would allow myself to buy this very, very expensive exercise machine that I could do in the winter to keep myself more fit. And it might, my partner actually wanted me to buy it a couple years ago, but I just didn't want to set myself up that it would be something that I would buy and maybe not use. So by putting myself through this, motivated walking, I called it my mini marathon, then that sort of gave me enough assurance that I would be able to keep using the machine and maybe move forward. So that's what worked for me. So I got real, I got motivated, and I got rewarded. So then that was a good thing. Because basically what you're trying to do is create a bridge for yourself to go from, feeling defeated to feeling motivated and positive. And moving through those 3 steps is my process, and it really works for me. And I've used it on, in many, many issues. And even though I've, kind of aligned it here with my walking experience, it is something that you could apply to just about anything that you might be feeling defeated about, whether it's a work situation or a relationship situation. Just kind of move the emotions aside and look at, get real, zoom in. What is it that you really, really want to make a difference and change? And then get motivated. What's the smallest things you can do to move toward that change? And then once you're well into the change process, assign yourself a reward, because we all need rewards. We all deserve that. If we're working towards something, it's nice to know that you're achieving something. So that's my 3-step process to deal with moving from defeat and moving toward staying positive. Because I think staying positive is, it just really helps you go through all these difficult things that will come forward in life, because life is a series of change, so there'll always be change. So if you have a few steps to fall back on to get through some really tough ones, I find it helpful. So I hope that you do too. Let me know in the comments if any of that resonated for you. And try and remember that however it is you're feeling, whether you're feeling defeated, for example, you have to really look at what you're thinking about, because your thoughts create your feelings in the moment. Okay, so they really work so close together that if you're feeling lousy, you're probably having some lousy thinking. So look at how you can just make a little edge in there, get some light in and change that up. So try the get real, get motivated, get rewarded. Until next time, be gentle with yourself and those around you. Bye for now.